What is up, baseheads? It is your boy, OG Soda Pop here, coming to you direct. I got back home not too long ago, like a little after 5 o'clock. I didn't leave the hotel until this morning. I had it booked till Monday, and I could have left early yesterday, but after the show, I was like tired and wanted to shower, and that corny ass shower. That hotel's corny as hell. I got it because of the price, and at least it was right across the lot from a Raising Cane's, at least. I ate there 3 days in a row, man. They got some bomb chicken strips, and everybody's taste buds are different. Some people like chitlins, I don't. Okay? Some people like pig feet hoagies, I don't. So, but that's got to be the best, tenderest chicken that I've had in a long doggone time, and it's always piping hot. Yeah. So, I'm going to explain why this amp kept going into protect, man, every time I would do a burp. And there had to be a common sense reason behind it, right? Why would a certain amp keep going into protect every time you put a new one in there? There had to be a reason why that was happening. And it started to discourage the hell out of me, man. And I didn't want Robbie and them to think that I'm one of them dudes that stuff keeps breaking on, because I've had cheap equipment that never broke and lasted no matter what I did. So, I don't want that to happen. This issue kept happening, and I started worrying a little bit. Hopefully I ain't got to keep worrying. Okay, because, let me straighten this out. I want to be able to compete without no issues. I'm trying to straighten this pole out, y'all. Without no issues, man. You know what I mean? And it's starting to get to the point where I'm afraid to burp and just show up at the shows and do the street beating runs and a demo, or just show up and demo, or pay $20 a demo. You know what I mean? I don't want it to get to that unless I want to do that. You feel me? But nevertheless, I'm going to hit up about the Ohio show first, the BrandX and Resilient Sounds show. That was a pretty bomb show. I mean, in the last, maybe 3 or 4 years, I've only stayed local. At one point in time, I did travel a lot. There was times I would hit Columbus 19 times in one season. And that's 3 hours in each direction. And travel all over Ohio at one point. And then I simmered down and would only hit the local shows. You know what I mean? So, you know what I'm talking about. So, that was like the first time I hit a big show. Well, a couple years ago, I did go out to, what was that part of Ohio, that fairgrounds they had that at? And I keep forgetting, you go past there to get to Columbus. This place, they had that show out there. Well, anyway, I'm not a fan of dirty fairgrounds either, man. I don't like getting dust all up in my engine compartment and dust all in the trunk, getting all over the amps and stuff like that. I gotta go come and cleaning the stuff off and all of that, man. That's really annoying to me. And I was wondering if this fairgrounds we were at, that raceway park we was at, well, Raceway Park is going to be dusty. I knew it probably would be dusty, but it wasn't as dusty as some places that I've been, but nevertheless, it was dusty. Right? And I kept cleaning my car off, and then riding back down there, and it was dusty all over again. I'm not really a fan of dusty places to compete at, man. I usually stay away from them, but I made an exception because it was the Resilient Sounds, because I'm running their product. You know what I mean? And I wanted to come down and represent them. That's the reason why I made an exception. And it was storming the day that I came. And my windshield wipers do not work, because at the show on the 18th, I did a burp and broke the damn motor. And it's a brand spanking new motor. And you can tell it's brand new. It's all shiny. How it don't work. And didn't get a chance to put another motor on, because I was being told by some people that you could just saturate the window with BrandX, and that would fight the rain. And, I, put a couple coats of it on there. I never used BrandX before, ever, because I had windshield wipers. But anyway, I made it. I made it to Ohio, and the strange thing is I was mad because it was raining on Friday, and I had to ride in the rain because I don't like pulling this out in the rain. I only pull it out when it's nice. You know what I mean? And in cases like that, I would never need windshield wipers, right? If I'm going to be pulling it out when it's only sunny. But you never know. It may not call for rain and storm. It's happened like that over my 61 years of being on this planet. Okay, so, I wanted to see if this was going to work. I wanted to see if this BrandX stuff was really going to make the water not stick to the glass. I was so curious and so scared at the same time. And so at first I pulled out, and it was raining pretty good when I pulled out of this unit. And it was just beating up, but beating up a lot. But when I started moving, when I started driving, the wind was pushing the beads upward. You know what I mean? I was like, oh, this ain't that bad. But then when I was on the turnpike, it started getting dark. Another story. And then it wasn't calling for no rain in Ohio, in Amherst, at all. You know what I mean? I ride out of the rain coming through PA, and it was no rain. I was like, great, and ran right into a rainstorm in Ohio. I was like, I thought it wasn't supposed to rain. And I was discouraged as hell. I just kept it moving, though. You know what I mean? I'm blind in one eye and can't see out the damn other, right? And still made it there. Eventually, I rode out of the rain again, eventually. You know what I mean? And didn't see no rain really since. But that show was a darn good show, man. I ran into old school bass heads I have not seen in about 15 or more years. All jokes aside, Team Neo, my man Vernon, he was somebody I looked up to back in the day. When him and Team Neo was out there doing their thing with their CRXs and American bass before I was using American bass, when I was using Lanzar and Mofos and SPL amps and stuff like that. You know what I mean? I was around looking up to guys like that. And even Steve Mick, even though I'm old enough to be his dad. You know what I mean? I didn't know he was as young as he was at that time, but guys like that in the car audio game as far as competition, I was looking up to quite a few of those guys. And a couple of them from Team Neo was there, was Vernon, and the other guy, I forget his name, but I remembered his face. He came up to me like, what's up, Soda, you know what I mean? And back at that time, when I finally started talking to Vernon and them guys, because for a while I was coming to them competitions out there in Ohio and wasn't saying nothing to them. I would just keep to myself, basically, and would just watch and look and see what cats were doing. And when I finally started talking to him, he started giving me advice. There was some advice I would take and some I wouldn't, because I was content on how I was running, what I was running. And we got to talking about that. When I finally took the advice, it worked. And that goes for Joseph Auld Sr. as well. These guys are quite a bit younger than I am, technically. But they had more knowledge as far as the competing circuit was. You know what I mean? I wouldn't listen at first, and when I did, and everything worked, it was sort of like I told you so sort of thing. So me and Vernon was talking about that and laughing. You gotta put the batteries in the trunk. That's why I kept saying that. You gotta put the batteries in the trunk. Let me ask you one question. What? Did you put the batteries in the trunk? No. You gotta put the batteries in the trunk. The acid will kill you. It'll kill you. You know what I mean? That's why I kept saying that to people yesterday, man. They didn't understand what I some probably did. It's like, what the hell is this dude talking about? But anyway, even yesterday, Vernon hasn't been active in the game, but he knows the game, especially American bass. He was using American bass at that time, knew everything about it, you know what I mean? And we was talking about it and talking about why did I walk away from some of the companies or equipment that I was using at the time that was working for me, like Shark amps, like the Audio Pipe Minis, like the VFL Mini Hybrid 2Ks, like the VFL AKs, like the 1100.1s, like the yellow cones, like the HDs was one of my favorite subs that they ran. The Signatures was another one. I did like the yellow cones a lot. he stopped selling them. You know, he was like, you know, when you get something, when he seen it, what was happening to me yesterday, he was like, he's like, you know, when you get something that works, you should stick with it, of course. You know what I mean? And with those particular brands, I didn't have a lithium battery either. I was running like 15 AGMs, 13 in the trunk, 2 under the hood, 1 on each side of this hood, right? Engine compartment and all of that. I was doing all of that. You know what I mean? And it was getting away with it, even though there was times I was running a 12 case, I dropped down into the 10s, you know, in parking pound and stuff like that. But they were working for the most part. I just wasn't getting the most out of the amplifiers that I can get out of them. So I wonder how they would be acting with this 190 amp hour C-Max now if I still would have kept them. You know what I mean? I was pretty much one of them guys that would try something else to see if I could get louder. And even Hank Veach has said this as well some time ago when he came down here to buy all of those audio pipe amps off of me. When he never tells nobody he drove all the way from Indiana down to my house. He don't tell nobody these things. And brought all those amps. Yeah. But anyway, when he was mentioning lithium, get lithium. This is before people started realizing you could just run lithium and run your whole car off of them. And they were mixing them with excess power batteries, was mixing them with their lithium battery and their actual batteries. People were mixing them, or you know, running them together, and then somebody genius came up with running them like I'm running them all by itself with no other battery but it, and it's running the whole entire damn car, headlights and system and everything. You know what I mean? And I wouldn't run them for that reason. And Hank was trying to get me to run them, stack them in the trunk, and I didn't want to fill up my trunk with a bunch of stuff at the time. And he did the same thing. Did you get the lithium yet? No. Why? And I started getting offended, sort of like, why do I need those? And he was like trying to say, well, there's so much of a better battery. But I didn't understand them. I didn't understand anything about them. That's the reason. I didn't understand them. I didn't, you know, but I do now. So eventually I would listen, right? Eventually. Okay, once I see stuff works, then I'll use it. Once I see it works, not all the time. I might not want to do my car a certain way another guy does his. You know what I mean? So that's that. So Vernon still was giving me advice still. He still was talking about why these amplifiers would be doing that, what they're doing. But we never thought that it would be the speaker got hurt, but it ain't reading that it's hurt, but it's hurt. That's what I'm going to get into. That was the problem. The speaker, somewhere along the line when I did that hard burp, when I hit that 163.79, and that amplifier went into protect, that's why I went into protect. That sub probably moved so far, it hit something in there, the coil hit the motor or something, and caused the amp to go into protect. It didn't break, it just went into protect. As it was being explained to me by him, the amp ain't broke, it's going into protect. And you know, for a certain reason why it's going into protect. If it breaks, it's not going to come back on at all. And it kept coming back on, but every time I would turn my volume up, when I went to give one of them Nebraska bass heads that's using Resilient Sounds, a demo, because everybody was interested in this darn car all yesterday, man. Everybody wanted demos the whole weekend. I was so worried about doing my runs first. I didn't want to be demoing and trying to run. I've always been that way. And then when I get, then this stuff would happen, and then it sets me back. And cats want a demo when the amp ain't working with only 8 speakers. And it's like all or nothing with me most of the times when it comes to this. If I can't run all 9 of my amps and all 9 of my subs, then I'm not happy, even though 8 would still sound good, and then I have to worry about resonating the sub that's not playing and stuff like that, man. So you guys didn't get a demo. You will get one. You'll get them before the end of the summer. You will, because I'm kind of a little wishy-washy about doing burps anymore. Just do street beating runs. You know what I mean? I burp and I'm, push the subs to where they moved and a coil hit the motor or hit something. And I don't want that to keep happening, because if that keeps happening, that means I can't go full tilt like I would like. That means I gotta not burp at volume 30. I gotta burp at volume 28 and my numbers will get above the numbers that I want to get to. And then other stuff that I got to work on to do. And all I've been doing is messing with this damn car. And it's costing money all over again like it's been. I'm not going back into debt playing with this car. But it's acting like it's trying to happen like that. So I need to watch what I'm doing. And you know what I mean? And people say, Doug, get this amp and don't use that amp again. I've been hearing this stuff forever. Buy this and don't buy that. Buy that and don't buy this. And I tell people, I was like, if the company is helping me, man, then, I've been saying this for years, man. Why am I sounding like a broken record? You know what I mean? All jokes aside. Oh, get ruthless. And I see that those amplifiers are doing nothing but work. Nothing but work. This guy's running them. This guy's telling me that it's hard to break them. Yeah, but if I want 8 of them or 9 of them and they're like $1,600, hell no. A piece? Hell no, man. Nah. Nah. Dude, just get 4 and run 2 speakers of them. I go hard or go home. What did I say? When I'm messing up my amp, I still did Park and Pound with just the 8 subs and 8 amps. I still gave out demos with just the 8 subs and the 8 amps. Go hard or go home. You know what I mean? But I don't want to go home because I went hard and broke every amp and every damn sub. And then I'm at Brazilian Sounds looking at Robbie like I blew every amp and every sub. I can already know what he's thinking before he's thinking it, because my intuition's a monster. This dude blew up. He must not know what he's doing. I could believe that behind my back, him and Lucas be like, does he even know what he's doing? Yeah, I do. This stuff happens. So on the way home, I was playing, and everything was good. The speaker, what had happened was it was going in protect after I put the new one in, right at the show. I had to modify the thing and everything. Put it in, set it, and then I was giving a demo to Nebraska dude. The amp was working, then it wasn't playing, then the amp was back, the speaker was working, then it wasn't playing, and I stopped in the middle of the demo. I may play the demo anyway. I stopped in the middle of it, got out, went and looked at the amp, it was red. I told him, turn it off and turn it back on. Boom, he did. And then as soon as it got up to a certain volume, it went back into protect. Okay, and I was like, man, I just swapped this out. And I didn't want to go over to Robbie and go, guess what? The amp is still going into protect. I was like, it's got to be that speaker. That speaker's got to be doing it. That's the only other thing. RCA's checked them. Nah, that's got to be the sub. How many times has this happened? Damn, I should go play the lottery. To the same amp. You know what I mean? So, the same amp on the same side. I was like, so I went back to the garage. I was checking all the ohms on the speakers from the amp. And it was fluctuating from 0.5 to 0.7 back and forth, fluctuating 0.5 to 0.7. I was like, it don't seem like nothing's the matter with it. Got up this morning, came down there, put the meter on, it was 0. I was like, 0? Then I went to the other amps checking the subs, and they was all like at 0.5, 0.6. I went back to it, it's reading 0.3. Then I went back to them, then I came back to it, it's reading 0.1. And I was like, 0.1? That's low. I was like, well, no wonder the amp is going to protect. That's a hell of a low impedance even 0.3. I was like, something there's wrong with the speaker. Gave Robbie a call. I was like, how far are you from here? He's like, about an hour. I was like, man, I explained to him a little bit what was happening. I was like, I'm riding out and get another sub. Right. And he said, all right. And I rode out there. Like I showed the video of them guys. They said Corey and Brandon Otis popped up. Robbie, me and Lucas pulled the sub out. No, me and Robbie pulled the sub out. He helped me pull out the sub. Me, Lucas, and Corey Otis, when he showed up, all three of us. This is a three-man job, bro. Heavy as hell in speakers are. We got that back in. They checked the other one. As soon as we get the sub out, it's reading right. Somebody explain this to me. We took the sub out, it's reading 1 ohm per coil all of a sudden, but it wasn't doing that when it was in. So I thought maybe the wires needed a continuity ran on the wires or something. I was like, but why would that? There's nothing matter with those wires. They're 4-gauge wires. They're 4 gauge. One run. I let Lucas see the run coming out and how when he just took one look and said, no, it ain't them. You know what I mean? While I was reading, and the conclusion is they would have to pull it apart because they're going to recone it for me as well, so I could have a backup. They have to. I was told even by Corey Otis, because that's what they do. They rebuild speakers. I found out as meeting them today, technically, and that they cut acrylic. I found that out. So now I'm going to be in touch with them boys now because I want some thicker plexi on my window. And he told me to just send the templates of these things. I want them thicker. I want them like 3/4 inch thick. And they're not ridiculous like places I've been. Yeah, let me keep this going. So he was explaining that they tore so many subs apart. That's what they do. They tell you why the sub ain't working. He was explaining all this to me. What made it blow? Yada yada yada. He just said that sometimes they do read like nothing's wrong with them, but something's wrong with them. To make a long story short, he's like, something's got to be wrong with that. He's like, it can't. He's like, just like I said. He's like, what's the chances of an amp keep doing that? He's like, if an amp is going into protect and it's coming out of protect and it's going, then something's causing it to go into protect. You know what I mean? I was like, yeah, the sub. He's like, exactly. Something's got to be wrong with that sub. If we was to tear it apart, we would find out what happened with it. You know what I mean? So Lucas and them will be in touch with me to find out what possibly could have happened to that sub to cause the amp to keep going into protect, because I've never had an issue like this before, people. I don't have those kind of car audio issues. I have grounding noise because the radio went bad like the last time. Them is the kind of issues I may have once every 100 years. I don't clip my amps. I don't soft clip them. I don't do any of that. Soft clip it just to get a higher score. So no. I don't do any of that, bro. I don't do any of that. Let me close this. Before them damn moths start coming in here and bothering me. And another thing I found out, because I'm not the only guy running these amplifiers that had issues with them. And the issues with them, I was told by Lucas and other people, is these things don't like high volt, like ran at 16 volts. Like I was driving my car around at 15.9, 16 volts. This is an old school car, so that doesn't hurt the vehicle. It don't have computers and stuff in it. I was driving around like that all the time, and it wasn't hurting the vehicle. And I've made sure that even if I'm street beating, my amplifiers got all the voltage they want. And these are supposed to be 17 volts, so Vernon Sargent had to sit me down and explain this to me as well, about how some companies will tell you certain things to get you to buy their products. He's like, don't you think they're telling y'all this stuff. He's like, if it can be ran at 17, don't you think it would work at 17? Like the 18 volt, American-based 20Ks and 18 volt And if I did have those amplifiers, I would be running them at 16.3 every single day, because I would assume they can handle that if they're an 18-volt amplifier. When they say 17 volts, that's one of the reasons why I bought the little ones, because my VFL 250.4s, when it got to like 16.1, they wouldn't even come on. You know what I mean? So I bought them because it said they're 17 volt capable, which means I can run them in the 16s and they're not going to shut off on me, which they haven't shut off on me. The little 800.4s are tucked in there. Them things has been working. Them things are nice. They got them doors screaming something nice. Okay, y'all heard that on the dueling demos run. I wanted to see how them speakers was going to sound in dueling demos. Now, I had one guy say he don't like those over what I had. I was like, dude, you can't hear how crystal clear those are, bro. And then we was dueling demoing Saturday with people's basses playing, people's demoing and all. You can barely hear dueling demos over all that, bro. But yesterday, you can hear my dueling demos clearly, because there wasn't no boom, 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 boom going on. You know? And like I showed you, I didn't come home empty-handed. Thank God. I didn't come home empty-handed. Hey, Ben. We're going to have to do something with this door. It's trying to sag again. Or any of you guys, man, this store, is there any way we can weld this thing in place that it don't sag ever again? Someone? I was just talking about going out to Cleveland, talking to one of the guys I haven't seen in God knows how long. People, some of them dudes are growing up. Some of the guys, kids that were kids back then when I was coming out there to Ohio a lot, they're grown men now. Remember when they wanted you to do the robot for them all the time, and now they're grown ass men. I'm like, oh my God, time flew. Yeah, man, I'm like, wow, man. I'm shaking their hands like, man, you was a little guy. That's how long I've been competing, bro. And all the new, hey, y'all, I'm going to accommodate some of y'all on y'all's bills, man. There was some, I'm going to tell you people, there was some heavy hitters out there. Some of the nicest cars, like between part 2 and part 3 of the videos, when I put up part 3 this evening, y'all see some cars, or even in part 2, I was showing some badass vehicles, dude. The graphics was nice, the inside was nice, the builds was nice. It was a lot of creativity. I got to get my head knocked off by a couple, not as many as I would have liked to, jump from car to car to car to car to car. You know what I mean? See my man Randall Ritchie out there with his new build with that big ass, thick ass plexiglass going, and you know what I mean? I just was happy seeing a lot of cats, and I had a lot of people that technically look up to me that I was just meeting for the first time that's been following me on social media. They wanted demos. You know what I mean? Despite what vehicles was out there, they still wanted a demo of mine. Just by watching me on social media. Y'all feel me? Okay. Everybody has fans. A lot of us has fans, bro. Don't hate. But anyway, should be hating on me anyway. I'm old enough to be a lot of y'all's dad, bro. Period. That's facts without car audio. But anyway, yeah, man, that show was banging, bro. And now Castle's giving me flyers for other shows and slamming for soldiers and all. I'm going to try to get out to these places. I want to be confident my amps ain't going to go into Protect, bro. And stuff. For goodness sakes, man. For goodness sakes, I want to be confident, or else I come out and be a demo guy. But if I'm going to be missing work on a Saturday, dude, that's money gone. Money gone for money to be spent. I'm not a fan of that, you know, nowadays, man. I got a little bit smarter. I got bills, credit cards to pay back, and I'm not trying to be consolidating the damn thing ever again. You know what I mean? I'm feeling bass boards. I like bass boards because it's like real, not a lot of rules, and there's other classes I could have entered too. I entered Twister. I like Twister. All right, I would have did a louder score if the amp wouldn't have went in Protect. It kept going in Protect. I like Twister, and I like the one burp. I like that organization, and I always liked USACK. But I paid for two classes, and only did one. Now she got to send me my first place. I got first place in that one. She got to send me that one. Okay, and she basically owes me money, so I just told her over the phone, Connie, I was like, I'll enter another USAC somewhere, and I'll remind you that I paid for a class. Okay, I was going to run Mecca Radical X again when I got my amp back in. My new amp, I was going to run X, but I didn't. And I'm glad knowing that that speaker had problems. I was going to basically do the same knot as 163 as the other day. So I changed my mind and just ran dueling demos and kept that sheet for our show, which she talked to Kevin about, is coming up Sunday, if I even decide to burp people. Now I'm scared. I got ahead of myself. Those amplifiers want to be ran at 15.4. Everybody was saying 15.4, 15.5, 15.4, 15.5. I swear the MDAKs, well, I was only running MDAK at 15.8. But that went almost 2.5 years before anything happened to one of them. And then I just got it fixed. And I should have kept them MDs. I like those MDAKs, bro. I ran them at a 0.6. I like them MDAKs. You know what I mean? But from what I'm told, the same thing happens to them. So if I had them at 16 or 16.1, the same thing would have happened, I'm told, to them as well. It's a Brazilian thing. You know, so I get it. You know what I mean? I always ran my amps higher, so whenever I hit them, it would drop down, still be in the 15s, and give me all that power. But they're talking about some chip they put into these. Lucas was telling me they're smart, a digital amp. So there's some chip they put in them, and the chip is, I guess, you know, the caps and this, that, and the other, and all this genius E equals MC square stuff. So I'm like, all right, well, from now on, now driving around street beating at 15.9 and that didn't hurt, never hurts him. You know, but I wanted to be above that if I'm going to be street beating and demoing for every damn body. I put him at about 15.8, 15.7. I got to be on the safe side now, so I'm going to listen. Like I told Vernon and them, Vernon was like, if I were you, if your instincts is telling you, don't run again, don't run again. I was like, nowadays I listen to guys that was my mentors back in the day. I was like, I listen nowadays, bro. I listen. I'm not going to run with the amp acting up. All right? And like I said at Robbie, and I'm like, man, this dude know what he's doing, because I'm just really getting acquainted with Robbie and Lucas and all them guys, technically. You know what I mean? So I don't want them thinking, oh, here comes Mr. All 8 amps blue. I mean, all 9 amps blue and all 9 subs blue. And that terrorist stuff started because prices then went up. So, hey. All right, well. Yeah, I might as well get me a couple of new amps and a couple of subs, just in case, you know, and carry an amp with me and stuff, you know, in case this junk happen. I can just, remove and replace. Like some mechanics are just remove and replace mechanics. They don't got no knowledge. They know how to take something off and put something on, and that's how it starts and how it ends. Yeah. All right, fellas, if you got any advice about this, you know, about if y'all believe, you know, the subs and stuff, because I can ask the guys I know that know. I won't be wanting to know how much stuff people know. I'm sitting there wiping the amp off. I got OCD bad. Oh, the guys that know what they're talking about know what they're talking about. All right, so it's your boy, the OG Soda Pop Kid. I might have went a little too long. Hopefully I didn't. Coming direct. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night. I'm putting up some more videos. I just tapped somebody out before I came down here. Peace.